John here, and for today's devotional, we're going to shift away from our focus that has been on God and His characteristics by looking at how God is love and how God is my provision and how God is with me, and by that we mean God is relational, by shifting to the other part of that relationship. See, if God is relational, He is in relationship with us, which means we need to know a little bit more about ourselves. And we're going to do that by unpacking somewhat of a silly statement. But it has some pretty severe implications for how we live our life. See, our statement is, I am a child of God, but I am not then a plumber. Obviously, right, this is our joke statement, but you can fill the occupation with anything we like. So for me, right, I am not a ministry intern. I am a child of God. A ministry intern is my occupation. We can do that again. Like, I am not a doctor. I am not a lawyer. I'm not a landscaper, high school student, football player, cheerleader, etc. In other words, for Christianity, who we are is not what we do. Now, in comparison to some, I have been a Christian for some time, and in comparison to others, it's really just the beginning of my journey. But I have come to understand that the enemy has three primary attacks against all of Christianity. He tries to get us to question the character of God. He tries to get us to question the character of ourselves. And he tries to get us to question the character of others. Now, this is first and foremost apparent in the Adam and Eve story in Genesis, when the serpent really does trick Eve by saying, "Did God really say that to you?" And then emboldens her by enticing her with these statements of, "But you could be like God." And then finally we see Adam, when God comes after they've eaten of the fruit and disobeyed God, he points at Eve and says, "It is the woman that you gave me." See, even from the very start, the attacks have always been against the character of God, the character of us, and the character of the people that we love most. Already this week, we've talked more and more about God, but our walk with God is just that, ours. And I have to know who I am, and that starts first and foremost with my Creator. The enemy wants us to believe other than what the Creator has to say about us, that we are indeed a child of God. So take, for instance, this. This is my cell phone. Now, I could very easily use this as really whatever I want. I could toss it like a frisbee. I could use it like a hammer. But ultimately, my phone is not what I want it to be. No, instead the phone and what it is dictated by its creator. And indeed, if I use it as a hammer or a frisbee or even as a paperweight, it's not living up to its full potential. So my value, my worth, and my identity is dependent on God, who is my Creator. We see this for Jacob in his story. His whole life, people referred to him as a trickster, as a deceiver, a supplanter. It's in his very name. At some point, the transition from "this is what people say about me" to "this is who I am" happens for Jacob. From there, Jacob acts out the prophecy of his name. It is who he is. Or in other words, right? As Jacob hears so often, "little deceiver, little trickster, little deceiver, little trickster," his name spoken over and over and over and over, he decides, well, I guess this is just who I am. And that in that moment, God disagreed. In fact, we see this as the climactic moment of as Jesus is wrestling with Jacob. Instead of, right, acquiescing to Jacob's question, will you bless me, Lord? Jacob, the Lord asked, what is your name? And God in that moment says, no, you are not a deceiver. And instead I name you Israel, because you have contended with me. So this week, I really want you to think on some of those things that have been spoken over you by others or even by yourself, instead of the things that are spoken over you by God. Some of those might be, right? I am hateful. I'm lonely. I'm angry. I'm not what you want me to be. I'm not wrong. I'm old. I'm too young. I'm afraid that if I stop, I won't be valuable. Or perhaps what God says about us. I am capable. I am loved. I'm loving. I am first and foremost who God says I am. Certainly, when we think about these I am statements, there's elements of truth potentially to all of them. But they are not who we are. And this is perhaps one of the greatest failings of the English language. These I am statements can so easily become identity statements. So today I encourage you to see if there is anything that goes against what God would say about you as part of your identity. And if you really want a good place to start to see what God says about you, I encourage you to go now and read Psalm 139. And with that, I pray a blessing over you. Have a great day.